Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today is the big day. What's so big about today? I have the lighting fixed. Of course, I had the lighting fixed several days ago, but now I have the sound fixed. My new microphone arrived over the weekend. I am using it right now. There it is, new microphone. So we have light, we have sound. We're back in business. What shall we do on my first day back in business? I want to talk about China. I want to start out first with an article. I'm not going to quote from the article. Let me just give you the headline. But it's an article you should look at. I put a link, as I always do, in the description below the video so you can go to the article. It's from Jim Garrity, National Review. All it really did, well, here's the headline: Authoritarian regimes are not your friend. Talking about China, an authoritarian regime. What Garrity lists in his article, you can see a long list of countries that have received medical supplies, masks and ventilators, all this equipment intended to deal with the coronavirus pandemic that China caused. It turns out that a lot of this equipment is defective. The equipment just doesn't work, it's just junk. But here is the puzzling thing to me. I found this puzzling and I may have an answer. It's very interesting. China makes a lot of high-tech products. That is the problem that we're dealing with, to bring manufacturing of high-tech products back to the United States. China has been making this stuff for years. They're making the 5G that it looks like England is changing its mind about buying. My point is that they know how to build high-tech stuff. So why are simple things like masks being defective? And even a ventilator is not that complicated. I mean, it's complex, but it's not as complex as other things that China makes, and those things perform flawlessly. The question is, why is this much simpler equipment defective? Senator Tom Cotton has a theory. I think it's connected, or it could be connected. I'm not going to say for sure, but it does raise an alarm with me. Tom Cotton thinks that China's not containing or not telling the world about the coronavirus when it was confined to their country, that it was deliberate. He was on a TV show, a Sunday TV show called, appropriately, Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo, Fox Business Channel, and he noted that, I think it was he who noted, but somebody did, that shortly after the coronavirus epidemic was really beginning to spread in Wuhan, China quarantined Wuhan, but still allowed international travel, still allowed Chinese to leave the country and go to a number of other countries, to any number of other countries. Cotton thinks that that was deliberate. They deliberately held back warning the world about the transferability of coronavirus to humans, from bats to humans, and here is why he thinks China did it. Well, we know that China's GDP, which had been growing little by little at first, and then since joining the WTO, World Trade Organization, it's just skyrocketed, as Trump has noted. But this is the first time since, I believe, the first time since the Chinese Revolution, since the communists came to power, that China had negative 6%, negative GDP growth. Now, this is what Cotton is saying. Imagine that China experiences this negative growth, but the rest of the world goes on and is fine, or mostly fine. Obviously, not getting products from China, China's problems would cause some decline. Maybe we would have in the United States a 2% decline in GDP, but nothing like what we're experiencing if the problem stayed in China. Cotton is therefore saying that he believes that China deliberately let the coronavirus escape China so that the rest of the world, including especially, I would assume, the United States, would also suffer economically. That China would be, well, they wouldn't be happy, but it would be much more bearable to see their GDP go down if everybody else's GDP went down too. It would be better for China if the rest of the world suffered along with China. So they deliberately let this coronavirus spread, which gets back to my suspicion that China deliberately sent defective medical equipment to the rest of the world so that the rest of the world would use the equipment, it would not work, the coronavirus would get worse, and again, that would make everybody else suffer along with China. I think Cotton's got something going there. I hope that somebody will look into that. Which leads to my next and actually main story, same topic, but China, as Garrity says, is not our friend. We have to do something about China. Ideally, we need to ally with other countries. I'm really hoping that at some point Trump will send Secretary of State Pompeo around the world to visit a number of other countries, certainly the major industrial countries, the European countries and Japan, maybe some other countries, and see if there's something that we can do together. Meanwhile, in our country, Nikki Haley, who was the UN representative, but before that she was a governor of South Carolina, she is starting a new group to, well, here's a headline: Haley launches Stop Chicom effort, Chicom being Chinese communists. Former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, has launched an effort to put China in the crosshairs of U.S. foreign policy. Her group is called, to the point, Stop Communist China, and its objective is to, quote, stop the Chinese Communist government's deceptions and manipulation. We need Congress to act now to prevent China's growing influence, unquote. I put a link to Nikki Haley's group in the description so that you can go to the website and do what I did and sign the petition to Congress to get Congress to do something about China. Now here is a list of what Nikki Haley and her group, Stop Communist China, and those of us who signed the petition, and I'm sure a lot of other people, want Congress to do. Investigate the Communist Chinese government's role in covering up the initial COVID-19 outbreak. End China's stranglehold on critically important supplies. Bring manufacturing of medical equipment and pharmaceuticals back to America. Make China pay the UN and other international organizations like the second largest economy in the world should. No more being treated like a poor, quote, developing country, unquote. And Trump has said this numerous times. If you didn't know, China, a member of the World Trade Organization, is still classified as a, quote, developing country, unquote. They are the second largest economy in the world, as Nikki Haley just pointed out. There is no reason why they can't pay. For instance, to the World Health Organization, they pay about $40 million. We pay over $500 million. Let's split it, okay? And each pay half. That sounds fair. They are the second largest economy in the world. Certainly, they can pay a lot more, and that's what Nikki Haley is talking about. Getting back to the list, I would actually go farther, though. I would say recognize Taiwan. Recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Invite the Taiwanese president to the White House. Who cares at this point what China thinks? And this goes hand in hand with a joint international effort that I hope will materialize against China. If we start moving manufacturing out of China, if we make them suffer economically, every company that moves out of China lessens China's influence, which they exercise in a lot of ways. For instance, well, not just our failure or our reluctance or our refusal to recognize Taiwan, but there is one particular instance that I remember where a hotel mentioned China and Taiwan, a hotel chain, I think it was a Hilton chain, I'm not sure, and they had to walk it back in order to do business in China because China does not want Taiwan mentioned separately. Taiwan, in China's view, is still part of China. They consider it a renegade province. They have gotten universities to cancel speakers, to change things that they've written about China. It goes on and on. So I say recognize Taiwan and let's just stop this nonsense, and whatever China wants to do, let China do, okay? Which is another thing, beef up our military more than we already have under Trump, and definitely beef up our presence in the South China Sea. I would even say start doing, if we're not already, military exercises with Taiwan, sell them all the advanced weaponry that they want and need. Which brings us to the last item on Haley's list, which refers actually to the point I just made about Chinese influence in our universities. Require American colleges and universities to disclose all communist government funding of professors and researchers, because that is a major way by which China influences these universities. So if a professor, for example, speaks favorably of China, don't we have a right to know whether that professor is getting funded by China? And finally, I'll end on this, it's not on the list, but close the Confucius centers, the quote-unquote cultural centers funded by the Chinese government that is installed on a number of our college campuses. And that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Thumbs up if you like this video. Share with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? You can put them in the comment section below the video. Also, any questions you might have, suggestions for future topics. You could subscribe. I love getting subscribers, so subscribe. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.